Welcome into the DNVR Gaming Podcast. We're back. We're doing the thing. I'm your host, Drew Kreisman. With me is AJ Hafley, fresh off some hot avalanche news. Some avalanche news.
We'll call it avalanche news.
We'll call it avalanche news. But of course, this being the DNVR Gaming Podcast, we are going to be talking about some gaming history here, but our entry point, much like when we talked about some things that could deserve the Zack Snyder Cut treatment, we talked a little bit about the Snyder Cut. Today, our jumping off point is Godzilla versus Kong. It's caught the nerd world by storm. It was, we'll get into what it was, but AJ, I want to start just with you there. What is your level of history and relationship with Zilla, Kong, Titans, that whole kaiju history?
I had a casual fandom of Godzilla growing up. But then as an adult, it really took off. I watched a bunch of, Netflix and stuff just poured out. It had I wouldn't say all of them because I don't know all of. There's so many of them,
right?
But there were tons of the Japanese Godzilla flicks on Netflix that I just devoured over the years and seriously enjoyed just the concept of monster movies. And then Pacific Rim came along kind of out of nowhere, and sort of re-energized the market for monster movies, and I loved Godzilla, the 2014 one. Godzilla 2000 was an abomination.
Yeah, I saw that in the theater,
but
paid real money for that.
The 2014 Godzilla, I loved it. It had one really obvious criticism, which was Godzilla was on screen for 14 minutes.
Yeah. And
it was this is what people are here for, man. This is it. They were creating a new universe, and so they kind of had to create an entryway into it. And so all of the family stuff and all the blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. Whatever. You've got to find a side door to get into the monster movie, right? But yeah. She agrees. But I just give us more monster, and then as that unit, Kong Skull Island came out, and it was pretty cool, and the eagle-eyed of us caught all of the Monarch stuff, all of the look at all these.
Yeah.
And I thought at the time, this is just fan service, right? I didn't know that they were creating an actual universe, but it was cool to see. It was cool to see these exist in the same world. That's awesome. And then they, King of the Monsters happened. Loved it. A lot of actors and actresses that I'm a really, really big fan of played big roles in that movie.
Right? That's a surprisingly good cast for a monster movie.
Yeah,
we're there to see the monsters, not the people.
Yeah, exactly. Tons and tons of people who have played roles that I've loved over the years. And it's so funny to see Josh Lyman from West Wing,
right? Just Bradley Whitford there.
Bradley Whitford. I always forget his last name.
What's his name? Now, since we're doing that, the guys who know by characters, the guy who's the fake out Ra's al Ghul in Batman Begins and a bunch of other stuff. He's in Intercept.
Oh, God, that's right.
Ken Watanabe is phenomenal in that movie. He's phenomenal. I just love him.
Yeah. Obviously, Kyle Chandler, Fear for Me, amazing.
Millie Brown. It's fantastic. It's a really good cast for a movie that doesn't need great acting.
Yeah. And it all built into Kong versus Godzilla. And the promo materials are all a fight to the death, right? And but spoiler, if you haven't seen it, this is not gonna be the show you want to watch. We're talking about it. We're talking about what happened, and we're getting into what went down. And I have to. I'm really, really curious what your reaction was. Kong versus Godzilla. They have the whole huge fight. We're an hour into that movie, and without human intervention, Kong is dead on 3 separate occasions.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like they were playing to the classic, it's sort of like when Superman and Batman fight each other, and there's those people that go, this isn't a fight. Superman wins every time, because those people lack a certain amount of creative ingenuity. Sorry if I'm calling anybody out there, but it just, there's a top line obvious, why is this a fight? And I feel like that was kind of the case in this. They were addressing the people. It's like, okay, King Kong is a giant ape. Godzilla is a walking nuclear reactor. Why would this even be close? And so that was actually one of the things I appreciated. I disagree with that assessment, but I do think that Kong comes into the fight as the underdog in the audience's mind, sort of the smaller wrestler.
So, their first interaction, it sucks because he's like tied to the ship.
Yeah.
And you're like, come on, man. Like, let him go so we can see it. Like,
so let's see a fair fight, right? It's classic wrestling goes. Like in the first match, the smaller underdog guy has his hand tied behind his back. So you're like, come on, man.
Yeah, it would be like if you were playing Mike Tyson's Punch Out, but you weren't allowed to punch as Little Mac. You were just allowed to get hit.
Yeah. I did think, as far, people talk about when they want to critique these movies, and they talk about like plot and plot holes of like,
what the shit, dude?
Who are you talking to? The plot of this movie is not, is the Hollow Earth real, or does any of this work and make sense? The plot of this movie is King Kong figuring out how to use his advanced intellect and tool-making skills and history in order to overcome a bigger, stronger, badder foe. That's the plot of the movie. This human stuff is just for people that need an entry point, like you said earlier. The plot is Kong figuring out how to win or how to overcome him in the end. And I actually thought that plot was really well told thematically. Like, in every fight, Kong learns something and uses it to his advantage in the next fight.
None of that stops the truth that Godzilla would have killed him on 3 separate occasions.
Yes.
Like Godzilla, if you're looking, like, Godzilla smoked Kong in their initial battle.
Fight 1, yeah.
Like and it was a huge advantage that they did it in over water.
Right.
Where, like, Kong can't do shit. He has he has to like Lego hop on the boats that are provided to him, which are actively being destroyed as he does it.
Right.
It's like anytime you're playing a platformer and you hop on something and your platform disappears after you jump on it.
Right.
And then you jump away from it and it disappears. Like
Mega Man levels that you basically have to memorize in order to
exactly. He's at a massive disadvantage.
Yeah.
And as a huge Godzilla fan, and as somebody who came into this wanting to see Godzilla literally rip Kong in half, to leave no fucking doubt, I understood, like, Kong was at a huge disadvantage in their first matchup, but Godzilla also very clearly won it.
Right. And so again, if this is like I just keep thinking, it really is like a really good booking of a wrestling program right up to WrestleMania or something, because again, with the bigger, badder heel in this case, and I guess that's why I ended up identifying with Kong. I went in, I just want to see him punch each other in the face.
Totally. I was like, this is like the Super Smash Brothers, the movie.
Straight up. Like, I have no dog in this fight. Neither one of them are dogs. We'll go right by that. But I just, whatever. But I thought the movie did a really good job of making me root for Kong to overcome all of his disadvantages in the same way that a pro wrestling show will do, where they're like, he's in the other guy's turf, like you said, he's out on water. Now he's handcuffed. And then you've got the bad guy, not the bad guy, you've got the bigger guy in the fight kind of toying with him. Like you said, Godzilla could have killed him a couple of times. And he's just like, nah, bro, I don't need to. They're also selling us in this universe a sort of more sentient, softer version of Godzilla, who's, I get, like at the end of the last movie, he was like the protector of humanity, right? He's like on human side. So they're all confused about why he's blowing their stuff up. And he's like not really after, he's after something else more than specifically Kong. So I thought that made some sense, where he would be like, I can kick your ass, but that's not what I'm here to do. And arrogant, right?
I really liked that storyline where they were like, Godzilla's only been our dude. Why did he just attack this human facility?
Right.
Like, what's going on here?
Right.
It was one of the only times that I thought that the story was like engaging, because they had spent, this is our third Godzilla movie in this universe, and they had spent all of it driving home that Godzilla was the good guy. Godzilla was the protector of humans and people, and that he was not, he was not there. That at any point he could just go stomping through a city and murder everybody, and there's nothing humanity could do about it.
Right.
And he just didn't.
Right.
And I thought it was a cool, like, an engaging storyline that they were like, what's going on here? But oh my God, did they have to use the kid from the previous movie to be engaged in the conspiracy theory, which was telling this totally random storyline where you're like, what is going on here?
Yeah, why? Yeah.
But I tell you,
I found the two of them entertaining, but that storyline could have been completely cut.
Oh, dude. But it built up into the Mechagodzilla reveal, which was right. Like,
I avoided spoilers. Did you know it was coming? Dude,
I had no idea. Well, because they didn't put it there. Obviously, all I had seen was the one trailer that they released initially. And I was like, I'm going to see this. I won't read anything about it. I won't mess with any of this. I will just see it when I see it.
Right.
And so I didn't know. Holy smokes.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I think I've floated this to you before, and I don't want to open a can of worms, but I'm big on, like, trailers ruin stuff. And I'd heard some people go, like, they saw this in one of the trailers, and so they were just like, whatever. I felt that way about Wonder Woman and Batman versus Superman. I was like, just don't tell me she's in the movie.
Yeah.
I was already going to see it. And if I show up and I'm watching your movie and suddenly there she is with the shield and the whole thing, that moment I would have jumped out of my seat.
Right. It's an awesome moment.
Which is exactly, but I'd seen it in the trailer. So when I see it in the actual movie, hey, cool. They're getting to the part I've seen. And then nothing else really happened, right? But this, I totally did, man.
This was well done.
And the slow reveal, and I did a big, and Katie goes, "What?" And I go, "I think is that," and she goes, "Is that Mechagodzilla?" It's like, I think that's Mechagodzilla.
So I was sitting here in my chair watching it, and I just leaned way back, and I was like, "Shit just got real."
Yeah,
like, oh my God, oh dude, Thor Ragnarok's trailer should have been like 15 seconds.
Seriously.
It should have been like, this is a super different tone from the previous two movies. We're sorry that they were shitty. Please come see this one. It's really way different.
Yeah. Yeah. But I agree. They're showing off too much stuff. Here we get to it.
We can totally get into trailers and how they ruin a lot of stuff, but
totally.
It was... the Kong vs. Godzilla, they did a great job with them, and then they made Mechagodzilla like the bad guy, and it was like everybody, all Kong, all Godzilla, and everybody was like, we have a greater purpose.
Yeah, it was
like Devin Dubnyk getting traded to the Avs to go win a Stanley Cup.
It's like, now he's on our side. Never heard of it. He's led 0 past Dubnyk for the Avs so far. So it's like totally, man. Like I thought it was a great way of like in real time swinging that, and also having the Ghidorah presence still be there, right? Because it's like if I'm interpreting their incredibly subtle storytelling correctly, that it's supposed to be Ghidorah's like consciousness that takes over Mechagodzilla and starts all the shit, right? So it's like, this is so great of not shoehorning Ghidorah back into it, which would have been just too many Titans now, but still having his presence be there. Clever. I appreciated that interpretation. And Breckton asking, I do believe, because I watched something. I watch New Rock Stars, by the way. That's kind of some of my favorite. Like, they break down Easter eggs of shows. If you're watching Winter Soldier, Falcon, or like WandaVision, or any of these things, I highly recommend New Rock Stars. And they said that was Serizawa's son, the guy who ends up piloting Mechagodzilla. That's supposed to be Ken Watanabe's kid.
Yeah.
So, but I love that, and even here in the comments going Kong Godzilla over Kong, which we're going, and then at the end it was like they got to have an easy answer.
It's Godzilla. Is like you can be a bigger fan of one than the other, but Godzilla would straight dominate Kong, as we saw.
Absolutely, it's just not a fair fight on the basis until like. But I do, like I said, I think they did a really good job of making you believe that by that last fight, Kong could hold his own. He still loses. Like, they didn't lie to you. Like, he gets straight pinned and pushed down, and Zilla's just like, you lost, dude. You lost. You took one of the 4 or 5 rounds we've had. You're done. Stay down. And that's when the bigger threat emerges, right? But I do like that for a minute there, off of the buildings with the tools, that Kong is able to hold his own. I bought that. And I will say, I enjoyed a lot of the Kong reinterpretations over the years a little bit. Like you said, Godzilla 2000 was terrible. Like, I enjoyed the Peter Jackson King Kong movie as long as it was. It was decent. And
I didn't care for it. Kong Skull Island was dope, though.
Yeah, it was, but there's like a huge middle chunk of that movie that even I, a person who does not bump on plot and cynical things, it's like one thing to be like, the earth isn't hollow. It's another thing to be like, stop flying your helicopter directly at the giant ape, you ridiculous humans. This is stupid. You're all being stupid, and you deserve to have your helicopter grabbed and thrown into a mountain.
Well, and it was also like
what strategy is this?
Like, Kong had his own problems.
Yeah.
Like, against the humans, where you're like, clearly this was made for this movie. Because when you put this in the context of, like, Godzilla versus Kong, like, which one of these struggled against humans on just solo? Because it wasn't Godzilla.
Right.
Godzilla did whatever he did whatever he wanted. Like, he was totally fine.
Just rolls through them.
But you know, I don't know, man. I loved it. I thought it was great. And I thought that, like, the apex of the movie, you know, with Godzilla charging up Kong's axe, was like, you built up towards it, and it was like, just do it. Just do it. Just do it.
Combo attack, baby.
And then, I wanted that smoke so bad. When they got up and Godzilla roared and they were staring at each other, and I was like, come on. You guys are not. It was basically my only problem with the movie. I understood it. I knew where it was coming. Or I knew where it was going. I knew exactly how this was going to end as that scene was unfolding. But I hated it because that rational, like, we've been apex predators who have been designed to just dominate, you know.
Right.
We are the alphas, right? You have to, you know, only one can be the alpha. And it was just an instinct that was driving both of them the entire time. And then all of a sudden, at the very end, they get filled with this, like, very human, like, rationalization where they're like, oh, we took down the bad guy together.
Now we're
both the good guys.
Yeah.
Like, you do your thing here and I'll cover my ground here and we'll just alpha predator this up together. And it was just very human.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like two like the alphas that they had just built up had this very human moment, and I was like, no, they're not human.
Rip his ape arms off.
Well, it was like, look, like you guys, god damn it. I want, see, and I didn't interpret it as him throwing his axe down in submission. He did it. I saw it as this is 100% an olive branch. He's telling Godzilla he doesn't want to fight anymore. And Godzilla like roars at him, and I was like, see, Godzilla don't want that smoke. Godzilla will mess this dude up. He is all about this. Let's roll. And then he just was like, all right, I guess I'm going to swim away now. I'm like, no.
Is there anything?
And then like it ends with them all like, oh, here comes Kong for his daily walk. And you're like, what the?
Just out to see the Hollow Earth. Just inside, just checking it out.
P.S. The whole like Hollow Earth thing was so cool.
Wasn't it dope?
I thought it was such a cool theory. It was presented in an interesting way. And then it was explored in a way that didn't make me hate everything.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's obviously easy to pick it apart if that's what you're inclined to do. But I agree. It's a neat concept. I thought visually speaking, they pulled it off really well. I thought it was pretty cool. And I did to some degree buy the like, oh, okay, this is your territory and that's my territory conclusion, because that is a little bit Animal Kingdom. There are,
sure.
So if Zilla's saying, all right, fine, I don't care about the Hollow Earth, that's yours, but this surface land is mine. You stay, Kong, or we're gonna have issues. And that of course allows them to come back however they want. Stay down there. But I think they could have sold that a little bit better, because you're right. It's basically they're fighting. They come together to beat the bad guy, in quotes. And then they just part ways. Whereas like they could have had some way of like forcing Kong back down into the thing, and then Zilla being like, yeah, all right, I'll let him keep that. That he can have.
Yeah.
It was just fun, man.
It kicked ass. The last half hour of that movie kicked ass. Way too much human shit, though.
Yeah. That could be a complaint about almost any of the, like you said, the first one, which I thought was good in 2014, way worse. Way more human stuff in that movie. And actually, that movie was decent.
It was also like the introduction to this whole universe that they were building. Right. And so they had to, like, Godzilla had to come from somewhere. And they had to have the story told from some sort of perspective, right?
Right.
Because you're not going to start the movie with Godzilla rolling up out of the water or whatever and being like, okay, I'm here for seemingly no reason whatsoever. Like something, like there had to be an inciting incident. And in order for there to be an inciting incident, you have to tell it from the perspective of the people who are already there. So I totally understood the 2014 movie, the original Godzilla of this universe. I hate saying original Godzilla for a movie that happened 7 years ago. Yeah. Considering Godzilla's been around for like ever.
Right.
But it was very, I got it, and it's set up, and like Godzilla's couple of appearances were dope. There wasn't enough, but it was awesome, and I liked the story that they told, and it was very human, and it was very relatable, and it's very feel goody and blah 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 blah. And it was a way for people to give a shit.
Yeah.
And
I thought King of the Monsters wrote an interesting line there. Some of the human drama I was into with that family. Pitting the husband versus the wife wasn't like to me, I thought that was a smart narrative device, because now you're picking a side. Yeah, I thought that was cool and it worked. I just never bought Mom's turn. I don't know what they wanted me to feel about that character, but I was like, wait, she went from concerned citizen to absolute psychopath to redemption story, and
happened really quickly.
Yeah. But I will say, for Godzilla vs. Kong, I don't think it's like, I agree that most of the human stuff was blah, but I feel like they got back to the monster stuff as quickly as they could. Like as much as I hear that, I do wonder what it would be like to maybe even do a little more video game talk. Now, what is this podcast about? Is this a gaming podcast?
That's right.
First of all, how much you dig the intro, the credits when they were rolling through all the monsters that each one of them had defeated, like it was a bracket, like it was a tournament until they got to each other. It was like that felt very video gaming, dude.
And then like the picture that they had on, I watched it on HBO Max, and it was like the thing that where it was like half of the screen was Kong and the other half was Godzilla's face, and I was just like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, right. This is amazing. And so I do wonder, because I saw this critique a lot. What, like, could you really get away with making a movie basically as though it were a video game? Like, you boot the thing up, there's like a screen that says, hey, you're watching Godzilla versus Kong. And then it's just fight round one, straight up, just get into it, with no, like, you got to have some human stuff, obviously. But I do wonder, how close you could get to presenting one of these movies as basically a video game where it's just like, you boot it up, let's get to the action. Here's what you came to see.
Yeah, so it's like, how do you make that game?
Right.
Because in a movie, you tell it from the human story. In a video game, you feel powerless, which you don't ever want to make your players feel that way, unless it's a very temporary thing. Right. You don't ever want your players to be like, well, there's Godzilla and I have to like climb him, or like, is a Shadow of the Colossus now? Like,
do I just run away? Imagine that game. Like, a game where you just run away from Godzilla destroying your city.
Like, what's happening here? I think that's the hardest. I think that's the greatest challenge to coming up with a great monster video game is, what is it?
What, right?
Is it an RPG? I mean, because there have been like, they've had like the monster like fighters where they drop all for like pick your monster. They drop you into a city and you have it's just a free for all. It's a 4 monster like melee where everybody and it's just like, okay, like, this is fun, but there's no depth to this, and there's not even a great variance in monster gameplay. If you were making an actual like game, how would you do it? What do you envision? Because arguably, at this point, the greatest monster game that anybody has made has been Rampage. Right. Which was the side scroller where you smash the buildings and just never ended. It was like, I got to like 200 and something level one time. It just kept going where you're just like, oh, okay. So that's just what this is. Yeah.
By the way, also Rampage, surprisingly fun movie. Again, if you can.
I actually did not. I have not gotten a chance to see it yet.
It's also on Max. We added it because we've been doing the monster movie run as of late.
Oh, and,
I will say it's right there with them. It's Kong Skull Island. I would say it's better. It's a little bit better than Kong Skull Island. And a lot of that comes down to The Rock.
He's awesome.
Yeah, and you actually buy his relationship, I think, with George. But yeah, it's so there's a couple. I played one back, and somebody actually reminded me of this on Twitter. So Matt, I hope you're listening. But it was called Godzilla Monster of Monsters or something like that on the regular Nintendo, and that was one where you played as Godzilla, and you could do kind of a couple of things, and you would go and kind of, you'd ransack the city, but if you ran into certain obstacles, it'd mess you up, and you'd run out of power. Your nuclear energy would run out, and stuff like that. And then you'd fight the certain monsters, and it's like, I think you could maybe do a big open world thing. I do think there have been missed opportunities for just basic fighting games. I don't know if you ever played Primal Rage back in the day, the dinosaur fighting game. It's like, it's tough to do a 2D fighter when you've got big old gigantic monsters, but I still think it could be.
And the other problem you have with that is that just fighters are just not.
They're not what they
popular.
used to be.
Yeah, it's just not that popular anymore. Because like, I could see you make a monster game where it's kind of like StarCraft, right? Where you play it from the human perspective, where you have to build up an army and you go and the point is to fight these monsters.
Right.
But again, like RTS, just not a very popular genre anymore.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be a great fit today.
Yeah. I wonder. And then, people want to play as the monsters. If you're getting a Godzilla game or a Kong game or whatever.
You don't want to just watch that guy like slap you around.
Yeah. Yeah. So, VR, Breckton talking about, and just be Kongzilla, Mothra, and fly around and destroy stuff in VR.
Like a
little dark, but I like it.
Could be cool.
Yeah. I feel like there have been. It's surprising that we haven't seen so many. Maybe the problem that we're talking about right now is exactly why, right? Because it's like,
I think between that and licensing, what else could it be?
Because the properties themselves, you would just think like it's fun, it's action, it's science fiction / fantasy stuff, and so it should make for a great video game. But it's just like the power of the monsters. I do think having all the monsters fighting each other, that's why I always come back to fighting games. But getting away from like 2D fighter, you'd almost have to like reinvent the fighter, like a bigger, wider version of Super Smash Bros, where you could just have like stages that are these giant, fictional cities, and then 4 or 5, 6 friends get together, and
the cities would have to be interactable.
Well, right, and then the whole thing is just destroying other monsters and the city while you do it. But I think that could be done, but you'd almost have to like invent like a new fighter type, right? Like a new game type. Almost.
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't be the same kind of 2D plane. You would have to do something different, because you have to feel like you're the monster. You have to feel like you're Godzilla. You have to feel like you're just bigger than your environment and more powerful, and that you are like you're king of the monsters.
Right.
You need to feel that kind of power.
So if this game did exist in a perfect world where we created this really fun 3D fighter game with a great story too, where there's elements where you can go through a story for each one of these characters, and let's say we've got 20 of the most well-known Titans in history.
The whole Titan lore was cool as hell,
right? Like
it was super cool.
It's dope. So you can get all this stuff together, but who are you playing as? Who's your main?
Godzilla.
Godzilla. No Mecha. Yeah. Mecha Godzilla. Not tempted to go with King Ghidorah.
No temptation.
No.
There's seriously no Mothra. I'm not messing with any of that.
None of it. You're just straight Zilla, man.
Hell yeah. If the Avs could get King Kong to play goal, I'd take that. He could also be their enforcer.
You'd think he'd be decent at it.
If we did a Titan game where they were all hockey players,
right?
Now we're reinventing gaming.
Titan hockey. No, all right. Titan sports. We do a whole. We're always going on and on about how there aren't enough adrenaline sports games anymore.
Well, it could be like the mutant football league where they, you
got Kong in at. Well, you'd have to play quarterback. He's the smartest among them, isn't he? Who's the smartest Titan? You got to line up front of those. I
would have to say it's Kong or Ghidorah.
Right. Yeah. Ghidorah plays safety.
I don't know, man. I think the lack of monster games is one of those things I think it feels like it stands out. Because I was going through Steam sales at like 4:00 this morning, just flipping through games, and I'm like, why can't I play a game like this? Like, I've got fucking Goat Simulator.
Right.
It was a thing that existed. Why can't I just have a game where I pick a monster and I just go destroy stuff?
Yeah.
Even if it's just a small indie game, it doesn't have to be like a AAA title where I have to do a lot of stuff.
Right.
I don't know.
Well,
I'm just. It feels. It felt while I was watching it. I feel because when I watch a lot of movies, I think about them from gaming perspectives, where I'm like, could this be a fun game? And all I could think was, how awesome would it be to play through a game, get to the end of it, and its final level, it's Kong versus Godzilla.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a lot of fun with it. But I'm with you. It's just looking at it, and it kind of reminds me of the superhero thing. Like there are a lot of pretty good superhero games, but there was a big lull there. And while the movies were suddenly getting very good, we talked about this on a previous episode of this show a while ago. Like, where's my great? And this was before the Avengers game came out. It's like, why can't I play as Iron Man or Captain America or the Hulk and anything other than, a 2D fighter from 10 years ago? Like, what's going on? When was the last time an X-Men game was released? Even still. But now we're starting to see, they did do Avengers, the Spider-Man games that are coming out that are doing well, the Batman Arkham Asylum and stuff. So I do wonder if these movies do well enough, if they kind of start to get into the ethos. And if I was reading Twitter and things I understand correctly, and I don't know, but it sounds like this movie did very, very well at the box office, whatever box office exists anymore, and with downloads and clicks and Twitter interactions, however the hell we measure shit in
yes, cool thing that HBO Max has going, where you get to see these movies like a month early if you have the service.
Yeah,
it's like, this pays for itself very quickly.
Yeah, I very much enjoyed that service and being able to see stuff right as it comes out. Like, I love going to the theater, and I want to support that stuff when it comes back and does that, and it's safe and everything. Like, I miss the theater, man. It's probably one of the things I miss the most. But being able to see these movies right as they come out is I just love it. So yeah, I'm very appreciative. What was the other one? We've done a couple right as they came out. Oh, Mortal Kombat's about to drop.
We'll have to do.
Yep.
We'll have to do a pod when that happens.
Yeah.
Because I think we're all excited for that. I think Rudo's even amped for that. And Rudo doesn't give a shit about monsters.
Yeah. Just like, I could not care. Yeah. You guys go and talk about your silly men in rubber suits.
When I was talking to him about it, and he was just like, oh. Okay.
Was that exactly your response when he and I did the Pokemon show?
I was like barely awake when you guys were like, do you want to be on this? And I was like, nope. And I went right back to sleep. And hadn't thought about it again until just now.
I don't know what the last movie I saw in theaters was. I do think I saw Joker in theaters, though. I'm sure it was a comic book thing.
Still haven't seen Joker.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there are reasons for that.
Yeah,
but
that makes sense. Do recommend it, though.
I actually got through about the first 15 minutes of it, and I was like, boy, this is really going to mess me up. So I backed out of it.
It's a lot. So if it's not, it's like me not watching Breaking Bad. And people are like, it's so good. And I'm like, I know.
That's all, like, it's all good and well, but there are some things that touch on personal nerves where you're just like,
I just don't need to.
I don't need to open up this wound.
Totally. But yeah, we'll definitely have to do when Mortal Kombat comes out. There are a few others. Have you seen any of the Mighty Duck stuff yet? I know you're busy.
Not yet. I wanted, like I do with most things, that when they come out 1 week at a time, I want everything to come out, and then I'll watch it.
Binge a little bit. All right. Yeah.
Because if it comes out 1 week at a time, there will be weeks that I miss because the ad schedule's so erratic. And then
you'll feel off or whatever.
Well, and then it'll be 2 weeks down the road, and I'm like, did I watch this? And it just, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
The only show I do that with is the network television show The Rookie with Nathan Fillion.
Yeah. Katie watches that show.
But yeah, I just like him.
Yeah.
I'm not much for the propaganda.
Right, but Nathan Fillion, I watch like I do just about anything.
Yep.
I will say, I am in love with this new Mighty Ducks show. It's definitely made for saps like me, but it is like it's so good. It's way better than it has any business being. I will say that.
Well, they need to. Good. I'm glad that it's good. Just make sure that Moon Knight is also good.
Did you see the most recent episode of Falcon Winter Soldier?
No, I haven't watched WandaVision.
Any of that? So. Okay. Yeah, I will. The first time Disney has surprised me with what they will allow on their platform was the most recent episode of Falcon Winter Soldier. I was like, oh, okay, maybe really? Moon Knight will be good. Yeah, I won't ruin anything for anybody because it's very fresh, but if you watch the episode, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I was like, I can't believe they're putting. As I was watching it, I was like, I can't believe they're putting this on television.
Well, I'll check it out.
On the Disney Channel. How old am I? On Disney Plus.
Yeah, it's like our modern day Disney Channel.
It's the Disney Channel. All right, this was fun. I got to go watch a baseball game, but I really enjoyed this. If you've played a great monster movie, Titan-based video game, or know of some that we missed or should know about or want to talk about, send them our way. One, because we want to be able to mention that we didn't know about those. But two, we actually might want to play them. Like literally, let us know. Hit us up in the Discord channel. Subscribe to the DNVR.com. Find us in there. Hit us up on Twitter at DNVR_gaming, all that good stuff, because, this is something I think both of us are very curious about, just the history of the monster movie franchise and why there aren't a few more video games in this realm. And let us know what you'd like to hear about on future DNVR gaming shows and all that kind of stuff. We appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out with us. For AJ Hafley, I've been Drew Kreisman. You've been totally awesome, and we will see you next time.